So the long-awaited small block Chevy eBay aluminum head update has finally arrived, and in this video I'll be showing you everything that's been done to the heads and all the items I'll be using with the heads and the price and how much it ended up costing me in total, and seeing if it's worth buying them bare and assembling them yourself with parts, or just going with an assembled AFR set. I have not added up the total of everything, but I do have the prices. So let's start off with the head. So first, what I had, all the machining that needed to be done was pretty simple. I had them resurfaced because in the first video I showed you, you could see like the machine came back and it was like a little uneven there. So my machinist smoothed it all down. It's perfectly flat now. And then what he did was he ended up, the corners right here were a little sharp, so he smoothed them out on all 8. The seats, he lapped the seats. They ended up being all perfect. He did a vacuum test and none of them leaked. He did all the seats are perfectly good. And then what I had him do was gasket match with the intake I have. So he just took off all the material. So all the heads just turned out to be pretty good, except for having to resurface the deck. And these are the intake gaskets I'll be going with. Velcro 1205. They matched the intake I'm going with, and that's what he matched. The intake ports on both the intake manifold and the heads. So next up, I ended up ordering a Competition Products head improvement kit, part number CMP 852226, and that included all of the valves, that included all of the retainers, all of that for the valves and the springs, and it included a set of springs that I did not end up using because when I called Howard's Cams, they did not recommend those springs, and they recommended me another set. So when you get yours, all the valves will be wrapped up like a burrito. So the intake valves would be wrapped up, and the exhaust valves, they won't be in the box like this, but the machinist ended up lapping the valves and they'll turn out to be perfect. They included the seals. These ended up fitting perfect with the guides. Here are the retainers. Degree. Here are the locators for the valve. For the spring. Those are all the part numbers right there. And these are the springs that came with the set that I did not end up using. They are a dual spring with a dampener. And yeah, I did not end up using these, but I'll be showing you the springs I'll be going with. So these are the springs that Howard's Cams recommended me. 9H445. they're dual, and with the cam they recommended a 1.875 install height, and I had my machinist check that with the spring pressure, and it turned out to be pretty good. And to check spring height, I went with this Proform micrometer. I had my machinist check the accuracy of that, and it turned out to be perfect. So this was pretty cheap and it's accurate, so I'm gonna be using that for all my builds. And then I got these spring shims from Comp Cams. They include a lot of shims. So to get the correct spring height, you're gonna be needing shims. So to install those valves, I went with a Summit Racing valve spring tool, and this tool just threads into the rocker arm studs and allows you to compress the spring to install the retainers. So the rocker arms I'm going with are Scorpion. They are a 1.6 ratio with a self-aligning body, part number 1036. And what I'll be using to install those are ARP 134-7104. I'm still not sure if these are the correct height or not, so I'll be testing them when I go to do the install. And you cannot install these studs by themselves because the chamfer right here won't let you thread them in all the way. There's gonna be a little gap. So what you need to do is, to make up for that gap, is get these washers right here, 200-8558. Now these have the correct chamfer to use, so the studs will sit flat with the head, and then you can go ahead and torque them down. You'll be needing 2 if you plan on going with a self-aligning rocker with this head. You're gonna be needing these as well. I also forgot to mention, these are the spark plugs I'll be going with. They're an Autolite 3924. These are the plugs my machinist recommended, because he's been building engines for about 30 years, and he's been running these plugs, and he's told me that they're the best plugs to run, and these are the correct plugs. They are perfect. They have the perfect depth for these heads. So if you don't want to run Autolite or copper, just get an equivalent to the 3924s and you'll be good. And these are the bolts I'll be using. They are an ARP 134-3603. Now what I like about these is that the outer bolts, the ones that go right here, those are chrome instead of black. You can see they'll come in these sleeves. They are chrome, or at least polished stainless steel. They're gonna look really good on aluminum heads. And the ones that go inside the heads are black. I mean, even the washers are polished for the ones that go outside. And finally, the last thing are the head gaskets. And these are a Cometic multi-layer steel head gasket. There's the part number. And now the bore on these are bigger than the bore on the head on the block. And that bore is because of the size of the combustion chamber. So any size smaller than 4.165 will end up being inside the combustion chamber, and you don't want that. You're gonna want the head gasket to be right on the border or a little farther away, and this head gasket size ended up being perfect. So I finally went ahead and added up the total of the machine work, the heads, and everything that you see right here. And I believe I got everything. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, but I ended up adding the totals of everything that I'm aware of. So let's go ahead with the heads. Ordered them off eBay. Now these prices do not include taxes or shipping. So because that really depends on where you live and taxes in your state and whatever. So this is just the price of the item itself without taxes and shipping and all of the extra cost. So heads from Amazon, well, they're same as the eBay heads but just sold on Amazon, $388. The head work, now that ended up being $400. That's only because I wanted to have gasket match the intakes. And I'm sure you could have, I mean, there really wasn't any work needed other than resurfacing, and that probably would have ended up making head work probably about half or less than half of 400. Next, the head improvement kit was $260. That included all the valves, the retainers, the locators, and the seals and all of that. Spark plugs, $30. Valve springs, since I had to buy the separate springs because the head improvement kit included springs that weren't that wouldn't work really well with the cam profile. I had to order separate. Those were $143. Spring shims, those were pretty cheap, $40. The micrometer, the Proform micrometer that ended up being accurate, $62. Spring compressor, $48. The rocker arms, since they were on Scorpion's website, they said that they're racing, narrow body, and they're self-aligning. They ended up being $350, but I'm sure you can probably just get away with using stock rocker arms. Probably wait for about half or less than half than $350. Rocker studs, $47. The washers, they're $10 each, so $20 in total. The gaskets, since they're Comedic, they're more expensive, so $176 for both. The ARP bolts, $117. You can probably just get away with using very cheap replacement bolts for maybe half or about the same, I'm not sure. Intake gasket was $17. So the total of all of this you're seeing right here, $2,098. And that's just without taxes or shipping. So this ended up costing me a lot of money. I just went ahead and checked on AFR's website, and for an assembled head for both, it's about $1,200. But the only reason why this ended up costing me almost about double was because of the rocker arms. You know, I went ahead with a really expensive set. That price on the AFRs does not include rocker arms, so you're gonna have to, if you end up going with the AFR instead of buying off Amazon or eBay and then pricing everything else, you gotta remember, you gotta buy head bolts, you gotta head gaskets, the rocker arms, machining if that needs to be done. So rocker arms, and then the head work, since you know I wanted a gasket match and all of that ended up costing $400. So if you're AFRs, if you end up going with AFR, you gotta do some head work, or you want a gasket match, you gotta remember the price of that. It's also gonna add up. And then the head improvement, that included all of the valve stuff, and then the valve springs I had to buy separate. So 143. So the valve springs that come in the AFR heads, you really don't know those were good with your cam, so you're gonna have to add up the price on that as well. So yeah, $2,098. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's about the same amount I have into the rotating assembly and block itself, since the machining for the block was $1,200 and the rotating the 383 stroker kit was $860. So that adds up about the same. So I got so far $4,000 into this 383 that's not even close to being ready. But if you're on a budget, definitely just go with the AFRs assembled. Try to get the cheapest head bolts and the cheapest rocker arms, and just don't even bother trying to gasket match unless you're willing to do it by yourself, because that ends up costing almost $500. My machinist usually charges $600 for everything that he did, but since I'm a returning customer, he only charged me $400. So I got pretty lucky on that. So I mean, this is all you get for $2,000 right here. Unless I'm missing some more stuff. I can't really remember. I mean, I don't think I'm missing anything. I'm pretty sure this is all it. But yeah. So finally got done with this eBay update video. Next video will be installing the timing cover and the harmonic balancer, and installing the pointer. And then after that should be assembling the heads and installing them, and looking for push rod length. So hopefully I can get that done all within this week. Since I'm off this week, I should be able to have enough time to work on the engine all day. So yeah, guys, you guys have any comments, any questions about the heads, or about any of the parts that I'm using? Any suggestions? Just let me know down in the comments. If you want to DM me on Instagram about anything, you can go ahead and do that as well. I have my Instagram in my description, and there's a link in my about section on my channel, so you can go ahead and DM me or just leave a comment down here. And so yeah, see ya.